Fearless Disease.
A lot to dive into on this topic, so we're going to bring in Luke Ball, Republican strategist and CEO of Compass Strategies, as well as Doug Schoen, Democrat strategist and former advisor to President Bill Clinton. Doug, Luke, great to see you guys. Thanks for joining us on this Christmas Eve. Doug, I want to start with you. We heard in Darren's report there, this report from the White House Economic Council claiming that inflation is significantly lower in red states than it is in blue states. How do you read that, and do you see that as a potential political liability for Democrats heading into the midterms next year?
You know,
before we go and start on it, Fearless Disease fam, today we expose the truth. They hate to hear, like right now, if you are ready. That's very interesting when I hear that, of course, inflation is down in the red states rather than the blue states. I think it all has to do with mindset. But of course, they have their statistics and their theories on it. But I think it's always going to be mainly a theory over the statistics. I think it's always as you come into a realm of being within that red state, that a conservative movement, that Republican movement, you don't have that soft type of mindset. You want to build things. You want to be able to stand up for what you believe. You want to have clear thoughts. You don't want to just be able to be reliant so much on the government. You want to be able to do for yourself. So of course inflation will go lower because they're working as a well-oiled machine. But they have statistics, and they may be better than Fearless Disease. Let's go ahead and take a look and hear what they had to say.
I think from what we saw in the November elections and what the polling is showing us is voters across the country, regardless of location or party, are holding the administration accountable for inflation as they did Joe Biden. Now, it's certainly true that liberal states, particularly those with big city mayors, have much more problems with governance than do red states. And I think it's certainly the case that the quality of life frequently in red states is better than in blue states, especially blue state cities. But from
he's very true. The main point is governance, rule, law and order, people paying attention, doing the correct thing. The blue side always has this frame of just like live free, whatever it is, whatever, man. You know, everything is good, nothing is bad. You could do whatever you want. You could be whatever you want. You could think whatever you want. It's like a circus. So when you have a circus, that's what really happens. The circus takes over. There's no management. Everybody just does whatever they want to do. It's just like anarchy over there. But red states usually have a lot. They listen to a little bit more. They're led by Christ most of the time. Let's proceed.
Every indication we have from the polls and every indication we have from the Virginia election and the New Jersey election this November, voters are holding the Trump administration accountable. And I think there's a real fear in the administration they could lose the midterm elections, especially control of the House.
And Luke, Republicans have been more than happy to remind Americans of where the inflation rate was at its peak under the Biden administration. I mean, take a look at this data. Back in June of 2022, that inflation rate peaked at 9.1%. Americans were feeling that. It is now down to 2.7% as of last month. Luke, the question for you is the Trump administration.
9.1% when Biden was in office, down to 2.1 when it comes to Mr. Donald J. Trump. Awesome. Great job, Trump.
Has really been pushing this messaging about affordability. It's a messaging war with Democrats. Are Republicans winning that war right now?
I'm not sweating as a Republican strategist, and I call balls and strikes when it comes to economic data because I want my party to win. This was a massive win when the GDP numbers came out. The 4-point and some change percentage point of GDP growth is enormous, the record low inflation rate. And we also see that this data was driven by consumer confidence and consumer spending. That's enormous. So if you're getting data from pollsters who are saying that the American people are not confident in the economy, but then you have record spending like 203 million Americans spending in that 5-day period between Black Friday and Cyber Monday, and month-over-month retail sales hitting 4.1% consistently in the United States. I think maybe the same pollsters who said Hillary Clinton was going to sweep in 2016 are doing the same data polling as the ones who are saying that consumer confidence is not strong. I love when President Trump beats expectations of the so-called experts, and this data is strong. I don't concede that the Virginia and New Jersey elections, which are purple and blue states respectively are any indication of the midterms. And it's not what have you done for me with the American people, it's what have you done for me lately.
And let's talk about that consumer sentiment, because to your point, you're getting all sorts of great economic numbers. People are feeling good. GDP is looking great. Inflation is low. But apparently Americans just aren't feeling it. Take a look at the consumer sentiment index, almost a 20-point drop this year since it was first measured in January. It's at 53.3. Just to put that in a little perspective, that's close to the all-time low of 50, which was back in June of 2022 when inflation was at 9.1%. So, Doug, where's the disconnect here? Great economic numbers, but Americans not feeling it.
Look,
feeling it or not, I don't think that's a fair representation of what's going on. Just because inflation may be down and people don't want to buy more doesn't mean that we're having a bad economy. Maybe people don't want to buy certain things anymore. People are more inside. Doesn't mean they want to buy certain things. Just because they're not spending more because the inflation is down doesn't make it a bad economy. Does that make sense? It doesn't. It's not a fair representation of it. But they have to hit these points, and I understand as a network, because people ask those questions. They'll try to figure out why, even though most people are just that slow and they can't understand.
I don't disagree, Bill, with what Luke said about the economic data. He's certainly right. But the perceptual data, which I think drives voter attitudes, shows the president with an approval at or below 40%, and on the economy even lower, around 36%. That's why he's doing the affordability tour. That's why we're seeing so much emphasis on prices and the cost of living. So, yeah, there's a GOP argument, but I'd rather be the Democrats going into the 2026 midterms than I would the Republicans, because the midterm of a first term for a president is always challenging. I think this will be no different.
And Luke, got about 15 seconds left. Final word to you, and we'll take off.
I would submit the lingering economic problems that exist right now are kind of like blaming the firefighter for the work that the arsonist did. It's a big ship to turn around. I think President Trump has made significant progress, and by the midterm elections, I think Republicans will come out on top.
All right, Luke and Doug, we appreciate your time.
I totally agree. I totally 100% agree. My far prediction the same exact way is gap is going to widen under Trump. That's how it is. And blue states are going to suffer more and more until they get on ship. They got to get on the bus, man. They don't want to get on the bus. They're going to continue to suffer. That just is what it is. Smash that like. Tap the next video here on the screen. Subscribe and hit that bell. CashApp FearlessDisease is always in the description if you are rocking with the movement. See you on that next one. Stay rich and stay fearless.